Is justice really blind? Or do we live in a two-tiered justice system that judges its citizens based on their gender rather than the crime they have committed? What is the penalty for a teacher who has sex with a student? In America, most schools have eliminated their sexual education courses as being too obtrusive into the lives of students. These classes were meant to prepare students for the eventuality of having sex. But there was no eventuality for them having sex with their own teachers. Tonight, on Predator 101, we discuss a justice system based upon gender. We hire teachers to mold our children's minds and to keep the relationship with them above the belt and purely platonic. Most teachers can't find the time between creating a winning lesson plan and grading homework. But some find the time to have sex with their students. First up, we have Miss Lauren Debenader, age 41 years, who found the time to have sex with her 15-year-old female student. Second up, we have Miss Rochelle Cressman, age 32 years, for having sex with her male student under the age of 16. And lastly, we have Miss Lisa de Fleury, age 31 years, for having sex with her female student under the age of 18 years. Since as far back as anyone can remember, parents and school administrators have taught little children to watch out for stranger danger in men. And children are cautioned not to take rides from men who are bad guys, sexually or otherwise, as they may do harm to them. They may end up missing or dead. But what about parents and misandrous society believes resisting to tell children that the predators come in all forms, including women? Now, this is evident in our first case out of Midville, Pennsylvania, where a former Titusville area school district teacher by the name of Rochelle Cressman, she was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. For what? The crime of doing what society thinks that only men will do. Miss Cressman took advantage of the belief that women are safe because they are not capable of doing what a man would with a child. Now, oh boy, would the parents who would have this belief be sorely wrong after finding out what she did. For Miss, who masqueraded around as a decent person, was ultimately sentenced by the judge Mark Stevens to 3 counts of statutory sexual assault on a minor age 11 to 16 years old. So that it falls between that category. Now, to defend her heinous actions, Miss Cressman does what a lot of women who get caught in her particular situation do. And that is to throw her husband under the bus. Blame it on him. It's not my fault. It was him. Now, this pillar of the community, Cressman, chose to hide behind the tired old line of, she was having marital problems at the time, and that's why I slept with a child. But the facts of the case would show differently. It would show that Cressman went out of her way to pursue the child in question, whether her husband was in town or out of town on a meeting on business travel, like she always said. It's because he was gone all the time, and that's why I did this. No excuse. Now, the abuse initially occurred in her former home in Oil Creek Township, at a home in Titusville as well. She was initially charged in May 2019 with 42 counts of indecent assault, as well as 10 counts of statutory sexual assault, 10 counts of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, and other related charges. So, in total, 63 criminal counts were reportedly dropped as a result of Cressman's guilty plea. So a lot of these cases, the teachers are allowed to plead down to just misdemeanors. Now, her charges stem from continuous sexual contact with a former student over a 9-month span from September 2018 through April 2019. And the student was 13 years old at the time. Yes, that's right. Cressman was originally locked up for a short time and released and told not to contact her victim, which they do in each one of these cases. And when she got out, she went straight to her victim to try to do the same thing again. Judge Stephen made sure that Cressman was aware that she abused the position of trust and that her actions after the alleged sexual assault was revealed were reasons why she should be incarcerated. Anybody would think such a thing. They wouldn't let her out the first time. Now, the sentencing court session started with Stevens issuing a court order that the sentencing memorandum filed by the Commonwealth and defendant would be put on the docket and sealed. So, the victim had an impact statement. The mother had an impact statement. They didn't allow it to be read, but they did allow the teachers to be read. Now, according to the Meadville Tribune, she was also ordered to serve 10 years of probation and must register as a sex offender upon her release. State police said the 34-year-old initiated a sexual relationship with the boy from September 2018, like I said before, up to April 2019, when the student was just 13 years old. So for anybody who thinks that just men do this, think again. Now, Cressman repeatedly told the boy not to tell anyone of the relationship. Don't tell. And then she even threatened him to harm him and herself if it was uncovered. Now, while Cressman and others supported her character, were allowed to present during the court session both a statement from the victim and a statement from the victim's mother were not allowed to be said, and they were sealed. Now, if that isn't fair, I don't know what it is. But that's the state of the modern day courts for families and adults. So Crawford County First Assistant District Attorney Paula Giugiamano represented the state for the case. Now, she spoke to the court about the case, saying how cases with female teachers and male students can be looked at differently, which society does. They always see a difference, that when a woman did it with a child, he wanted it. When a man does it with a girl, it was rape or something else. Now, she said to the court that these cases impact the victims negatively and that they can be more damaging to male youth in some cases. Now, she also said it created a narrative that what Cressman did was beyond just sex. She told the court that Cressman had created a psychological control of that victim and that she had groomed the victim for ongoing abuse. So just like in the male cases, the women do groom these victims to keep going. Now, lastly, speaking to the human interest aspect of the case, she said that the victim was a normal kid and that the defendant had taken that life away from that normal kid. Now, following the defense was allowed time to present its side of the story. First to speak was Cressman's attorney, Stephen Calafalin. Now, in each case, when you do have an attorney that defends this type of action, it sounds like they never did it. So the defense wanted the court to know that while they were presenting reasons and factors that contributed to Cressman's actions, it was not an excuse, but watch out, it is a total excuse. Now, the lawyer told the court that Cressman suffers from mental health issues. He set the scene of a young teacher in a new town married to an absentee husband who frequently traveled for work. Boo-hoo. Now, feeling alone, he said Cressman attached herself to a family that needed her help. Her lawyer said that as trust formed with the family, Cressman went behind the mother's back and started a sexual assault of the son. Now, under the premise of a relationship. Now, just like when it's a male abuser, the females do the same thing. They sneak behind the parents' back. Now, Cressman attached to the family was so strong that after the sexual assault ended, Cressman sent a message to break up with the family, not just the child. So her lawyer described the sexual assault as a very much out in the open. The lawyer also told the court that Cressman felt remorse and shame for her actions. He said that she will never have the life she had before, that she will never get it back. But guess what? That child will never get the life he had back before either. And she'll be reminded of her actions daily, he said, for the rest of her life. Cressman also had two family members, her brother, Caleb Wallace, and Uncle John Hines, speak for her at the court as character references. But I don't know how you can reference somebody's character after something like this. If you do, you've definitely got my vote. Now, Wallace said that his sister was lost. Hines said that his niece made a mistake at a low point in her life after her mother passed. Hines said that the person described is not the person I know, and that her actions were amidst her own despair. But I guess now the child also has its own despair. After hearing from Cressman's relatives, Cressman herself read from a prepared statement. She started her statement saying she accepts the full responsibility of her actions. Cressman said the victim was troubled youth, and she was very involved trying to help him with those issues. But I guess those issues also went from the classroom straight to his bed for a long period of time. She said a sudden surgery, a failing marriage, and mental issues affecting her job were reasons why she did what she did. She finished saying that she had been shunned from her family and friends and that she will continue to seek therapy and take medications to fix her state of mind. Now, if she needs medicines, when that young man grows up, even though a lot of people that's adult thinks he likes it, he's going to need medicines too. And while Cressman described the situation as a woman in trauma making a mistake, Stevens reminded her that the trauma she caused the victim will impact him for the rest of his life. Stevens was stern when he said that the case is based on the foundational fact that the victim was 13. After hearing much about how Cressman is better than the mistake she made, Judge Stevens reminded the court that they can't lose sight that it was wrong. The trauma you were in, none of it justifies what you did, he said. Stevens put emphasis on the fact that a teacher and family friend of the victim, Cressman was someone that was trusted, he said. He said that this case will impact the trust in the teaching profession far away from the courtroom and for the near future, in which it will. There's over 80% of teachers in America today are female. So if we can expect this, we can expect it a lot in the future. Stevens also reminded the court that what Cressman did was groom a child for systematic abuse. This was a big deal, said Stevens. Bigger than just the act themselves. After delivering his final statements to both parties, Stevens decided to sentence Cressman to 60 to 120 months in state prison. Now, a large part of the sentencing is that Cressman will have to register as a sex offender the rest of her life.
You're watching MNN, the Men's Channel.
Our next Outstanding Teacher of the Year award goes to a Florida dance teacher who has been sentenced to 26 years in jail for having sex with a 15-year-old female student. Lauren Debenader was said to have engaged in an inappropriate relationship with her female student, which lasted several weeks in the year 2016. Now, wait for it. 41-year-old Debenader was caught naked by the student's stepdad when he stepped into her bedroom to check up on his daughter. Now, his daughter stayed home for a sick day that particular day. Debenader was hiding next to the victim's bed because she wasn't dressed. You see, she didn't want to be seen. She knew that she was wrong. Debenader reportedly performed multiple sex acts on the victim on multiple occasions. The victim said she'd never reciprocated any of these sex acts, nor did she touch the dance teacher. Now, according to the court documents, Debenader called the student after she learned that she was sick and staying home for the day. And she wanted to get closer to her. And she asked if she could come over. Now, the parents, like I said before, because she's not a male, they didn't anticipate something like this. We don't do this. The student also told the police that the relationship started as soon as she started classes at Debenader's dance studio, which was Haven Dance Studio. Now, court heard how Debenader called the teen into her office one day during a class and would kiss her on her mouth and touch her private parts. Now, if it was a male, we would never let this happen. The teacher, who has now been sentenced to 26 years in jail, will also be on a sex offender probation for another 5 years after serving her entire term. Debenader bought the victim a cell phone so they could stay in constant communication. She didn't want her parents to know that she was communicating with this girl or touching this girl. Now, the studio, Haven Dance Studio, shut down shortly after Debenader's arrest, and many parents didn't know why it shut down until they found this out. She was facing charges in both Sarasota and Charlotte counties, but the trial was consolidated to a Charlotte County courtroom. A jury found her guilty on all counts. After her prison sentence, Debenader will have 5 years of sex offender probation.
You're watching MNN, the Men's Channel.
And our final upstanding teacher in this episode 9 is former Thurston High School basketball coach and teacher who was sentenced to a little more than 7 years in prison. Now, after being found guilty of sexually abusing a student she coached, her name, Lisa DeFleury, 31 years of age, was sentenced in Lane County Circuit Court after she pleaded guilty April on 19 to 11 counts of second-degree sexual abuse. Court documents allege that Fleury was sexually abusing a female student of 16 years between July 3rd and December 1st, 2020. Fleury was head coach of the Thurston's girl basketball team and previously had been listed on the school's website as a 10th grade teacher for English and English support classes. So, you sign up for English and you end up learning sexual education. Now, none of the alleged actions was considered consensual because the girl was younger than the age of 18. It is not consensual because schools do not allow this particular behavior. Fleury was her coach. Second-degree sex abuse, according to Oregon state statute, pertains to when someone either commits specific acts, such as sexual intercourse without consent, or when a person 21 years of age or older commits third-degree sexual abuse, as was the victim's coach at any time before the abuse. Now, she was much older, and like she tells men, they should have known better. Now, Deputy District Attorney Catherine Green, the case prosecutor, said the state was satisfied with ruling of 86 months in prison. Now, a lot of people think that should have been longer. After receiving a conditional release December 15, which included a non-contact order, Fleury was supposed to be residing in Seattle according to the court documents. Now, however, Fleury violated the order. This is the second time I've told you that in this particular episode. Now, not just the men, the women also do violate these orders. So since she violated, she was arrested on April 13 after being found with the victim in her car at a Eugene shopping center. The district attorney office then recommended that Fleury not be released from custody during the trial, that she should remain in custody. Now, it also contributed to the prosecutor's higher recommendation sentencing of 10 years. Now, this significant breach of the law and total disregard for the court-imposed order of non-contact played a significant role in the state's recommendation of 120 months. Now, they did not get this. In a lot of these cases, because women have a first-time offense, they lose that time. Defense attorney Anna Simmons argued for a shorter 2-year sentence, following by at least 3 years of supervised probation, and brought in a risk assessment expert who agreed with her sentencing recommendation. But it doesn't make a difference. Wrong is wrong. Women tell men wrong, and I'm telling you the same thing for women. It is wrong. Now, Simmons also presented a variety of cases to argue them, and have been similar sentences in cases similar to this particular one. During the 2020 COVID-19 lockdown, the victim and Fleury became emotionally reliant on one another, according to a motion from Simmons. Before the sentencing, it was only after a lengthy period of friendship, she said, that their connection developed into a secret dating type relationship. But school does not allow any secret or open relationship. They don't care what it is. A student is not to be touched. When a woman signed that contract to be a teacher, she also signed that statement. Court documents filed allege that Fleury sexually abused a female younger than the age 18, having been the victim, coached at any time before the commission of the offense. Now, there were 10 instances of abuse between July 3rd and December 1st of that year. Now, where Fleury allegedly touched the girl sexually, right, and subjected the girl to oral sex. Now, is this something that we send our daughters to school for, let alone our sons? Now, none of these alleged allegations and actions could be considered consensual because the girl was under the age of 18 and Fleury was her coach. Now, according to the charges against the teacher, Lisa Fleury sexually preyed upon the girl for all of the second half of 2020. So we're talking about just last year during COVID, when most people should have been separate from each other. Her shocking alleged campaign of sexual predation only came crashing down when she was finally arrested. Now, news reported that after her first arrest, she was thrown into Lane County Jail. Simmons did not respond to that particular afternoon request for comment, so she didn't want to speak on it. Really, who would? Green added in her email that parents should be aware the people most likely to abuse their child is someone who knows their family, and said parents should listen to their intuition. So if you can't listen to your child, listen to your intuition. Parents can never start too early discussing with their children who is allowed to touch and see their body.